Filmed at Universal Studios Florida, where you can ride the movies.
To another episode of the Laser Comb Podcast. The show where two 90s brothers comb through classic television with a fine-tooth laser. I'm one of your hosts, NeoCal the Beast.
And I'm your other host, Axel Siege, up on stage right now, ready to give you some smooth sounds and some smooth reviews. We got a real great show planned for you tonight, brothers.
WMAC Masters.
They're the world's greatest martial artists, competing for the ultimate prize. Olympus, The Machine, Superstar, Red Dragon, Great Wolf, Tiger Claw, Yin Yang Man, Tsunami, Star Warrior, Turbo. Their quest, reach full dragon belt, then go for the Dragon Star itself. The World Martial Arts Council presents WMAC Masters.
Don't have enough villains, if you ask me.
Not enough villains. We need to get Marty Skrull in here to be the villain of WMAC Masters. And I keep wanting to call it WAMC Masters. Every time I have to stop myself. I'm like, no, it's WMAC, not WAM.
Not WMAC?
Yeah.
We're doing WMAC Masters, folks. What episode are we on? 56?
56.
56 of Laser Comb Podcast.
WMAC.
Okay. If you're just tuning in because the thumbnail grabbed you, this is what we do on Laser Comb Podcast. We watch a random episode of a random TV show, usually given to us by our patrons. But sometimes the month is themed, brother.
But this time, it's a Patreon pick. This is a pick by our longtime patron and listener, Jared. Shout out to Jared, Ranger64 in the house.
All right. So he chose WMAC Masters.
Yeah, this is a show.
Martial arts competition?
World Martial Arts Council, I think, or committee. Something like that.
I have never heard of this a day in my life.
I have never heard of this either, and let me tell you, this was on when I was 10 years old, and if I had seen this when I was 10 years old, I would have been all over this shit, brother.
This feels like this should have been this would have shaped my childhood so much if I had found this. This would have been my jam.
Yeah, this feels like off-brand, like Jean-Claude Van Damme and Power Rangers together.
Right.
And with a dash of American Gladiators.
And yeah, in the competition that it's set up a certain way style, but with the like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat like characterization of the contestants.
Yeah, even they even do the like idle animation when they're about to match up. It's quite amusing.
And you could see the influences of this show.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm actually surprised this isn't the Saban series because it feels like a Saban show.
So, for anyone wondering, the long short is that WMAC Masters.
What about the short long, brother?
Okay,
that's what we're here for.
The short long is WMAC Masters.
Okay, now do the short round.
It's a fictional show where a whole bunch of martial artists are in a contest.
Yeah.
And the characters they're playing are actually them, and they have relationships and rivalries and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a more like fictional storytelling of American Gladiators. Like you
Right.
know how they have character names. This is the back.
There's even a guy named fucking Turbo in this show.
You're goddamn right. And they have drama like in and out of like the competitions, and the competitions are exactly what I wanted them to be.
Right.
They're like fighting putties, and and the competitions end up like with little health bars at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
What else am I missing in the show? And then it ends up being two of the fighters fighting for each other's medallion at the end of the
I was really
episode.
hoping Hakeem was actually a cyborg.
That's the thing, and not just playing like
And
one. So it kind of blurs what is and isn't real on that, because I was actually hoping it would be like fighting style cyborg, like Jax, right? But no, it's like fighting style kickboxing, and he just wears that outfit when he's out fighting, and I'm like, why then? What's his story? Like, why does he wear
right.
the cyborg gear? It's fucking rad, but like, what's the in-world story for why he wears it, right?
Speaking of fighting styles, on the Wikipedia page for this show, it has a listing of martial arts disciplines / fighting styles. The top one is Goju Ryu, which I have actually studied when I was younger.
I have not.
Yeah,
I've done a lot of different kickboxing and wrestling.
Yeah, I made it to what color of belt was I? I was the next one above yellow belt. Or no, I was a yellow belt with a stripe. So it's like you're a white belt, and then you're a white belt with a stripe, and then you yellow belt, and then yellow belt with a stripe, and then something else. So I made it to
I
a
have
yellow
no
belt
idea. I never
with a
took
stripe.
like the striped stuff. Seems one of my electro spikes came off and got stuck in my hair. Ow.
Well,
They're
shit,
actually
dog.
quite fucking sharp.
Those are
It's
sweet
all the
gloves, by the
price
way.
to pay. I'm playing the beast.
Yeah, it was
So
just sweet gloves, by the way.
yeah, I just like pulled them out of like an unopened like Spirit of Halloween.
I dug out my bullet bracelet that I got.
I was gonna go and look for my real, like actual real like leather and like spiked and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm already way behind.
Oh,
But so I
we are
grabbed the
indeed.
first thing I could find in my LARP trunk.
So there's one thing I want to mention about this show. Also, let's talk about what we're watching. We're watching episode 20 overall, which is the 7th episode of season 2, Bad Blood.
Yeah.
Now, I had mentioned last week that this, at the end of the last episode of the LaserCone podcast, that this show kind of skirts the lines of the rules in a way. It feels like, and that's how it felt when I read the like what the show was about. Actually watching the show, I'm like, no, this totally fits.
This fits more than anything we've ever reviewed.
But it does kind of blur the lines in the sense that it's presented as being like a real like American Gladiators type competition show, and in fact, the character names in the show are actually their real names, and they're real martial artists. But everything is extremely scripted.
Oh, their character names are their actor names?
Yeah, it's all their real names.
Oh, okay, so but when they're performing, they're using their like WMAC masters, like
Yeah, so like
Okay.
they like the machine. His name is Hakeem, and they even call him Hakeem in the show, and like Michael Bernardo is Turbo, and they even like refer to him, like they show his name as being Michael Bernardo. So this show does kind of blur the lines between like reality and scripted television, but
it's definitely fiction, though.
it's definitely fiction. Yeah. Now here we've talked about this before on various different podcasts that we've done, where it's like, as we're recapping the events that are going on, we can't really recap fights
That's why I lingered and I stayed in character so long, because at the
Because
risk of this episode being 10 minutes long,
yeah,
it's ninjas descend from the rafters. They beat the ninjas up. There's lots of roundhouse kicks. And then Bam wins. Or then this guy wins. And then there's even a cage match. But the thing is, like, we're not live commentators. My God, the machines descended from the rafters with a baseball bat.
that would have actually been a fun way to review this, and maybe that's something we could look at in the future.
I'm actually it would have been a better for once, and I don't agree with the live commentary thing. It would be good for it would match this,
Yeah, totally.
right?
Yeah.
But
And
we
so
can't
we-
talk about the characters.
And
Yeah.
so where I was going with that is, like, we've said before that, like, it's hard when we're recapping the events of whatever we're watching to talk about fights, because ultimately we'll just sound like a couple of 7-year-olds being like, yeah, and then he punched him in the face, and then, you know, he fell on the ground, and then he did he jumped up to his feet and then did a roundhouse kick, and he completely kicked his ass.
And then Liu Kang did the bicycle kick, and he held he held medium kick for 5 seconds and let it go, and he went whoa 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 whoa. That sounded more like Mario. Whoa 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 whoa! Yahoo!
And when he fell on the ground, he was like, "You're such a stupid head." And he's like, "No, you're a stupid head." And then he kicks him in the face.
But then they went to go bow to each other, but one of them didn't bow because he's the bad boy.
Yeah, because he's the bad guy, right? So, and so this is literally just an entire episode of a television show of just that.
Yeah, but watching it, that's not a bad thing. It just doesn't lend
It doesn't lend itself to our shtick and our formula.
to analyzing the plot.
Yeah,
And here's the thing: there's nothing bad about that.
no, I had fun watching
This
this.
is fucking great. I cannot believe I didn't know this existed.
Right?
Just oh man, just the character design is so good too. And I like their little PSAs. Did you catch a little PSA at the end who's like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
I was
we're all professionals," and
I was actually going to insert that into
it's
this
cut off.
episode of the podcast, but it gets cut off, and I'm like, oh.
and it's
lame.
like it was actually, what year is this? Because they actually talk
1995.
they actually talk about like not ableism. What's the word I'm looking for? But he's basically like, hey, there's a lot of people with different physical limitations on the show, different skin colors, different, there's men and women on the show, and that little PSA at the end who's like, hey, it's cool to promote health, it's cool to defend others who can't defend themselves. It's not cool to judge people based on their gender or their skin color.
Or because they talk different from you.
Or because they talk, and then it
It was a good
talk
message.
different from
Yeah.
you, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good message.
I was half expected, and remember, winners don't use drugs or something like that at the end.
I was disappointed that it got cut off at the end.
But yeah, there's I don't know, I like that, and this was 15 years before shows really started doing that. Shows can be inclusive, but I don't quite remember in show PSAs like that.
Right.
Yeah. So I really dug that. That's cool. Oh, and all the messages whenever the warriors reconcile. Hey man, I broke the rules back there, and I kept fighting after the ring, but I swear I didn't hear it. No worries, bro. And they shake hands, and the camera zooms in on there.
Okay, so there is a little bit of drama that's going on.
Yeah.
The machine is fighting someone, I can't remember who, and he takes it a little too far. He gets a little too brutal, and even after the fight is over, he throws another punch anyway, and everyone's like, "Bro, what are you doing?"
Even though the ref that comes out with a glow stick is like, hey,
yeah,
the fight's over.
And also in Turbo is in a fight with someone, and he ends up grabbing a weapon, and the announcer. So this show has as like a voiceover, like announcer guy, just like
Yeah.
you would see in like a video game or something. Um, he grabs a weapon, and the voiceover announcer guy is like, illegal weapon use. But he still wins, and I'm like, shouldn't that be a disqualification?
I think it wasn't a disqualification because the warrior he was up against disarmed him, and then they continued fighting without weapons.
Mm.
But as soon as you grab for a weapon, you should be out. Also,
He's got the title belt. He's got the title belt. The ref is distracted. oh, AEW World Champion MJF just hit Orange Cassidy in the face with the AEW Championship, and referee Aubrey Edwards didn't see it.
Now, the athleticism of the man is superb, as was anything from the 80s and 90s. But the choreography, I thought it was going to get very repetitive, kind of like, and I love Power Rangers, but like Power Rangers, you can only watch them beat up putties so many times. But no, they're mixing it up. They all have like different styles, and camera zooms in whenever there's one point where they both kick each other at the same time.
Yeah.
And they look down, and there's like a boot print in both of each other's chest.
And they dust it off.
They dust it off and then like square up again.
Oh God. Yeah,
And,
this
the in between, I can't really tell what the in between drama was in the backstage, where it shows people training and talking, and they're in their normal clothes, they're in their civvies, right? But there's something from a past episode, something to do with someone's brother. Not quite sure.
Yeah. So who is
And then Guile comes in with his like camouflage, and he's like, ladies, keep that healthy competition in the cage. Save it for the arena.
Is this the who?
That's the Jean-Claude.
I was gonna say the like 80s like porn star looking guy.
Yeah.
Who's
like a little bit too old, but right, like just like 45-ish, but still doing.
Yeah. But is clearly supposed to be like some kind of like great value Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, great value Jean-Claude Van Damme breaks up the behind the scenes drama, and then we never see him again. And then like
he's also the shot of him just like kind of standing there, and like after like everyone else walks off of frame, he like does this weird, he looks to the side and does this weird like smirk. It's a sign of a bad
he's just
actor
looking
right there.
He's just looking at someone else randomly in the room, but because the camera doesn't show who, it's just it's once you watch it, it's very obviously fiction.
Yeah.
Charismatic bastard. But yeah, they watch the shows. Like they're a part of like the production, right? So it's not quite like Mortal Kombat, where Mortal Kombat it's all real. This is, they're purposefully putting on a show of some sort.
I find it interesting that during the battles they have ghost ninjas, which are just like nameless fighters wearing like ghost face masks who will show up and battle. This is what I found interesting. They'll battle the two combatants while the combatants are fighting each other. And then eventually the announcer will be like, ninjas vanish,
ninjas
like
leave the battlefield.
Yeah.
And then they just disappear into hidey holes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
And they're just there to whittle down the HP like a little bit, right?
Yeah.
They're not there to change the entirety of the match. And indeed in the last match,
which is a big like dome cage. It's like a Hell in a Cell.
It's a Hell in a Cell,
but a dome.
But it's dead or alive in the sense that the dome is electrocuted.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, and the but the ninjas have electricity proof clothing, so they can't get shocked by it. And every
'Cause
time
that-
one of the
'cause-
fighters knocks into it, their opponent gets a point, right?
Because that exists, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't even seem like they're being shocked. So maybe I just filled in the blanks wrong. Maybe I just imagined it should have shocked them.
Electricity proof clothing.
Yeah. The ninjas all wear rubber.
Yeah,
It's
there
the
you
most quietest of materials.
go.
Just a ninja in a gimp suit squeaking. Wait. Ooh, now I'm quiet. Oh my. And next we got
Okay, now we're starting to get into like
Now we're getting into
we're getting into my fetish territory.
we're getting into Tarantino films here. Back on track. When they make their entrances, they're very much like WWE entrances.
Yeah.
Right? Like smoke, they've got assistants that escort them. Some of them come with there's like a metal dude, right? Who comes out and like Turbo.
Yeah. Well,
He comes out with like a staff and like a leather vest. And
Well,
I love how they show off a bit with their weapon of choice. But they don't use them.
And this is where WWF originally borrowed this from. Like that was a thing for big high profile like prize fight boxing matches. That was the thing, like big elaborate entrances, like someone would be
All the hype men around them and people of note. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And by the way, they're all clearly actually martial artists. Like
yeah, like I was saying earlier, like
they're not like the best of the best, right? But like, man, they are jacked, and like they actually know how to use like a 3-section staff, a bow staff.
I looked up a couple of people who were on the show, and a couple of them are actually like Olympic medalists, like Olympic competitors.
There we go.
Yeah,
man. Billy Johnson and what is it, Turbo, when they enter, and one of them has like blue black lighting, Turbo, and Johnson comes out in like the wrestling, like not quite wrestling, it's almost like a silk kimono. I was gonna say boxing, like kind of robe. He's doing flips and he's got these 2 swords and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, this must have been dangerous. Even though it's choreographed, right, and it's scripted and all that, like people got hurt on this show.
I'm sure. So here's the thing. I like this show. I had fun watching this. But as I was saying earlier, because it's literally just like people like fighting, I don't really have a ton to say about it.
How dare you? Well,
beyond what we've
other than that it's just cool. Yeah, like they've got little like stat screens. It's like Michael Bernardo, Turbo, like after the commercial break and stuff. It's like height 5'10". They all have different like symbols. Weight 169. Man, I'm like 50 pounds heavier than the heaviest dudes on this. So I'm just saying, even though I'm not as cut as these guys, my signature move isn't a double spin and strike though, so I'd probably lose. But what I'm saying is, you know how there's backyard wrestling?
Yeah.
Backyard WMAC masters. We can make it happen.
Yeah, we just start our own world
I
of
didn't
martial
see
arts.
anybody. I didn't see anybody using nunchucks, and I'm in a chair, so I can't use them. But I've already got my character here.
It's because nunchucks were banned in the U.S. at this point.
Oh, but they're so cool. Are they banned here? I think they're
believe so,
banned.
yeah.
Like they're like what is it? Tethered weapons are illegal.
Yeah.
Like you can have them at home and just like play with them, but you can't like walk around.
Right. I was watching I discovered this YouTube channel recently called Secret Galaxy that does these like kind of like long form, like 20-minute like video essays on basically the stuff that we talk about, like shows that we grew up with. And they did I was watching one last night about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they were talking about how shortly after the first live action film came out, nunchucks became banned. Which actually prompted me to rewatch that first live action TMNT movie last night. It's good.
Yeah.
Really good. Holds up quite well. I absolutely...
Is that the one where Shredder falls in a garbage truck?
At the end, yeah. Give me foam rubber suits and animatronic remote controlled animatronic mouths and faces. Give me that any day over CGI.
Yeah, we're from a different era. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
fuck, give me stop motion over CGI most of the time. And here's why. I was thinking about this last night.
Not that we even hate CGI, but
it's
rant.
not.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not that I hate CGI. There is a very tactile look. Like, you can tell looking at it that it's a real thing. And that's what I like about those old like foam and rubber.
The lighting is real, the weight is real. The stunt man jumping around and kicking and shit is real. Like, that's
what I like about
rubber,
those.
You can feel it.
That's what I like about those live action TMNT turtle suits, is because they look like things that are real.
I was in charge of part of a daycare when I was younger, and part of it was making sure they went and got exercise. The kid, like young kids, like under 10, they went and got exercise. They got popcorn, hydrated, and then movie, right?
Right.
And one of the ones that the parents didn't want me to show, but I ended up showing them anyway, was The Labyrinth.
Oh, yeah. I still need to watch that someday.
Yeah. And because it was too scary or like whatever, the kids ended up watching it, and they ended up really liking it, but it kind of blew their mind because they didn't understand that the things weren't real, because it was all Jim Henson puppets.
Yeah.
And practical effects, except for when there's special effects, but all the characters are puppets and animatronics, like the trolls and the gnomes and stuff. And they thought it, oh man, they loved that. And they were like, oh, like how did they make these? Like, oh, how come this looks real? It's not a cartoon. And yeah, they were like super interested. So I like to think that I introduced young Gen Z kids into seeing, hey, like newer things aren't always better. Some things like age like really well. And yeah, a few of the kids ended up getting their parents to like buy the Blu-ray for them, including one of the parents who like forbade me from showing the movie. So
what you're saying is eat shit.
But yeah,
no,
it's a cool, musical, though. Right? It's a musical. It's a coming of age story. It's got Jim Henson puppets. Like, I watched it when I was like 6, but I can't show it to like 10-year-olds.
Well, Jim Henson did the Jim Henson Studios, or Jim Henson Productions did the animatronics for
the animatronics and the puppets.
They did that. Well, they also did that for the Ninja Turtles in those live action movies too. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim Henson Studios. Yeah, absolutely. It was still around.
Oh yeah, it's still around. I think his son runs it now, because he passed away a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But I think his son runs the studio now.
But alas, the machine is not a real cyborg.
I know, very disappointing. Can you imagine Casey Jones in this show?
Right.
Oh, so on the subject of the Ninja Turtles movie, I was 5 years old when that movie came out, and like, I remember it coming out. I remember it being in theaters, and I even remember my mom buying me the soundtrack on cassette tape.
I have a Casey Jones T-shirt.
the soundtrack, like the cassette tape, was pink. It was bright pink. The tape itself was bright pink, and the cover was like a shot of New York with like all the turtles' eyes like poking out from underneath that manhole cover.
Peeking up from a manhole cover. Yeah.
So when I first saw that movie when I was 5 years old, I was all about Leonardo. I was like, oh, Leonardo's so cool. He's the leader. He uses swords. He's great. Watching the movie at 38, I'm like, fuck, I'm so like vibing with Raphael.
I haven't watched it in a long time. I wonder who I'd vibe with, but I was always guess who my favorite was?
Michelangelo.
Exactly, yeah. Skateboards, nunchucks, loves pizza.
I mean, they all love pizza, but he has that like California like surfer dude like thing going on that like you see
Mikey, yeah.
like that the very like Bill and Ted like California like slacker type.
He feels
vibe.
like the youngest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even though they're all supposed to be 16.
Also, he's just easygoing. Yeah, they're all teenagers, right? But he's just easygoing.
But yeah, I definitely watching the movie now. I'm like, yeah, I definitely I vibe with Raphael the most. The like kind of like miserable, like what the fuck are you doing? Like kind of like aggro of the bunch. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Interesting. What if I told you that all their weapons are complementary of improving who they are?
So how does his sigh?
So Leonardo, he's got the two swords, right? And he's peaceful. He usually doesn't like what a fight, so he must show restraint, right? But he also must show like discipline, being the leader.
Yeah.
Which is why he has the two swords. Mikey needs to focus. And so he has a very technical weapon that's hard to master. So he needs to concentrate more when he's fighting. Raphael, because he's the most aggressive, he's given the defensive weapons the size, right?
Also used by Elektra in Daredevil.
By Elektra.
Which the Daredevil comics were, the Frank Miller run of the Daredevil comics were a direct inspiration for the Ninja Turtles.
And
even right down to them, Donatello and his bow.
Donatello and the staff is very simple, and he's like the inventor, and he's into technology and stuff like that. But to master complex things, you must master like things in its simplest form the most. And I always liked that kind of character design.
Interesting. I never really thought
that their weapons
are
meant to counter their personalities and improve them through discipline.
And interestingly enough, Splinter, the master of them all, uses no weapon. He fights with his hands and his fists, hands and fists. He fights with his hands and feet
and tail. Maybe a headbutt here or there. So yeah.
Also, Shredder, the evil guy, is like wearing like armor. He's got a mask. He's got like spikes and like blades all over him.
And he'll use anything at his disposal.
Yeah. Including, in the second movie, drinking an entire canister of ooze and becoming Kevin Nash.
Well,
Big sexy himself.
When you drink an entire canister of ooze, you become Kevin Nash. Anybody does.
Kevin Nash is out of all of the people who were part of the Clique in what was known as the Clique in WWF before him and Scott Hall like pieced out to WCW. Out of all the people involved in the Clique, Kevin Nash and X-Pac are not the ones that I would have expected to become the most like level-headed and like progressive and like cool of the bunch.
No.
Like
no, I wouldn't need me either.
Follow them on Twitter. They have good takes on things.
Oh, okay.
Especially for like older dudes in a very hyper masculine environment that is pro wrestling in the 90s.
Hyper masculine.
Anyway, I don't really have anything else to say about WMAC Masters other than, yeah, it was fun. I
Other
liked
than
it.
it's like fun, yeah.
Yeah.
But what we do here on El Lasercomb is there was no luchador guy. Would have been fun if there was a luchador.
El
But that's
Lazor Combe.
El Lasercombe. No way, hombre. We ask Siege. You just caught an episode of WMAC Masters. Will you tune in next week?
Well, this is Axel Siege reporting in and telling you that after spending some good time, like a real long time, watching WMAC Masters today for our good buddy Jared and longtime Patreon subscriber, I'm gonna say that I had a great time and that I would watch this again, especially if I had seen it when I was 10 years old in 1995.
I can't wait to show my partner this. Like like we legit might watch this.
Yeah, so I say I would tune in next week. I realistically, like I'm probably not gonna watch any more of
Busy
it.
people.
But
watching new stuff.
yeah,
But
right. But if I had seen this when I was 10, when it was originally airing, like I would have been all over this.
right.
I
think
wish
I
I
will
had.
check it out.
I wish I had seen it in 1995.
All right.
What about you?
What
What about
It's
you,
a big
Cal?
ol' tune in next week from me. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I can't actually wait to show.
It's a big old witness me, brother.
It's I do kind of got like a Fury Road vibe going here.
You do, yeah.
Minus like the shirt, just make me like really pale, black in the eyes.
It's funny. You've got like a Fury Road thing going, and I've got an Axl Rose thing going.
Yeah,
Oh,
kinda.
yeah.
And together we are Fury Rose.
I was gonna say, and together we are El Lazor Combe, brother.
Lazor Combe. Lazor Combe.
Lazor, El Lazor Combe, hombre.
That's our that's our stage tag team name. El Lazor Combe Hombres.
There we
Yeah,
go.
there we go.
We got there.
I would melt in one of those things.
We could put
You
on
putting
the
my hair in one of those masks and tying it around my face. I don't know how people would do it.
we could be the modern version of the El Conquistadors, wearing the like white morph suits and like masks. That was a hilarious. So there was a tag team, like I think back in the like late 80s or something, called El Conquistadors, and they wore like morph suits. And then I think it was the late 90s or early 2000s. Edge and Christian were feuding with the Hardy Boys, and I think Edge and Christian were like suspended or something, so they showed back up to challenge the Hardy Boys as El Conquistadors, wearing the morph suits, and then it became this like
I'm looking at them now.
it became this recurring gag for a while that they were denying that they were the conquistadors. And in fact, I think times where to prove that they weren't the conquistadors, they had like other people wear the morph suits. And I think, if I remember correctly, one of the times they did that, it was actually Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian who ended up like going on to becoming a legendary tag team in TNA/Impact Wrestling and in Ring of Honor,
Wild.
and now in AEW.
Anybody being like, man, these guys are talking way too much about like wrestling, or what did we go off? We talked about a movie for like a while. This is
Turtles.
for a particular follower on Patreon, and trust me, he likes those things. So
Yeah,
I'm looking at them here. That's commitment to a bit, my friend.
I know, it was great. Yeah, hopefully, Jared, you're enjoying all this, like, kind of like off the cuff, like.
How did I miss these guys? When was this?
I think around like 2000, maybe.
Oh, just as I was kind of weaning off, right? Just as I was falling off the wrestling bandwagon.
Yeah, I was
running
into
out
it.
of attitude.
I was into it all the way until 2006, and then I kind of just stopped at that point for a full 10 years until getting back into it in 2016, when I found out that AJ Styles, a guy I really liked in TNA, was in WWE, and he was going to be wrestling John Cena at SummerSlam. And I'm like, you know what?
I'm in.
I'm in. I'm gonna get the WWE network and watch grab some beer, grab some fucking kokanee, some very like Canadian like basic like lager type beer. I'm gonna get an 8-pack of kokanee and sit down and watch SummerSlam. And then since then I've been back into pro wrestling.
We're back in black.
Anyway, that was episode 56 of
Damn you, Web P.
That was episode 56 of the Lasercomb podcast. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LACORCOMB. We're at the single $5 tier. You get commentary tracks, you get preamble audio, you get our news and current events program, Lasercomb Tonight. There's 38 episodes of that to date. And you, much like Jared did, you also get to pick a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast. So if you want to get in on that, go to patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow me on Twitter @lasercomb. Cal, you are at?
I am at NeoCal, NEO_KAL on Twitter.
Next week we are continuing on with our Patreon sponsored shows, and we are going to be reviewing a pick from our longtime listener and patron, Bemused Horseman.
Oh,
And one of the shows he pitched us was a show called 3-2-1 Penguins.
What?
Yeah.
3-2-1 Penguins.
3-2-1 Penguins. I'm not even going to bother doing the screen share thing because Zoom keeps crashing every time I do. So 3-2-1 Penguins had a total of 27 episodes. So going to the old trusty random number generator, one random number between 1 and 27, and here we go. So this is season 2, episode 2, The Green-Eyed Monster. The penguins visit a small planet divided by a picket fence round the equator and populated by 2 factions of sheep, each of whom wants to conquer the other side.
2 factions of sheep.
All right, well, buckle up. That's what we're reviewing next week. And until then,
Are these space penguins?
I certainly hope so.
I think they are.
Until then, I've been one of your hosts, The Siege, Axel Siege.
And I'm your other host, NeoCal, the Beast.
Thanks for listening. We'll body slam you next week, brother.
Well, that's our story from Gladiator Arena, Los Angeles, California. For Larry Zonka, I'm Mike Adamley. See you again next week for more exciting semifinal action.